Okay, so here today I'm with Al Schoenfeld. Me and Al met about 3 years ago, I believe it was, at a cow-calf meeting down there in southeast Minnesota. And at the meeting, I got a hold of Al and I asked him to come down to our local cattlemen's local cattlemen's meeting and speak, and he did. So we've kind of been talking ever since then. And Al reached out to me about a month or so ago and wanted to be on the podcast, and I said, sure, but now with this social distancing, it's not very conclusive to get together and do it face to face, and that's how I like to do the podcast. So we will do the podcast at another point, but we'll just kind of do the video here and get a little introduction into who you are and what you do, and we'll just put the quick video together. So Al, let's just give me a little introduction, and we'll start going from there.
All right, thanks, John, and it's great to see you. Even if it does have to be this way.
Yeah.
So the new norm, right?
It is the new norm. And unfortunately, it's nice today, so it would have been fun to get together, but there's winter coming in this weekend, so it's probably a good thing we're doing this way too.
Right, absolutely. Hopefully not too much winter. But so my name is Al Shoenfeld, and it's been a pleasure to know John over the last few years, and so I live out by Astoria, South Dakota. That's our address, and that's kind of on the Minnesota-South Dakota border, near Brookings. And then the town in Minnesota that's probably the closest to us is Hendricks, Minnesota. Yep. So we've got a small ranch out here, a small operation, and then also I work for Multimin, and then we do run a custom donor housing business, and I have an AI business, and so we try to keep plenty busy with the number of things that are going on. So
you got wife, kids?
Yep, and so it's a family operation. So I've got my wife Cara, and we've got actually 4 boys. My son Tanner lives in the cities. He's 22, and he's an electrician up there. So very proud of him for that.
Yeah.
But then here at home now, my son Nate is 20, and he's a sophomore at Dakota State University, and so he's currently home doing schooling from home, and then we got Lane, who's 17, and Chance is 11, and they've enjoyed being out of school until they found out that a lot of afternoons we're going to be doing some ranch work, and so they're thinking it might not be so bad to go back to school once in a while.
Yeah. So is he a senior or junior then?
So Lane's a junior right now, so he'll be a senior next year, and so
hopefully it'll be a normal year again.
Yeah, hopefully we can get back to what we might call a normal year, and I know he's probably looking forward to that. I know they're starting to miss out on some things sports wise and that this spring that they're frustrated with and not sure. There's the uncertainty is what's kind of been tough.
It'd be tough to be a senior right now and trying to deal with all this. That'd be a whole new level of things.
I think you're exactly right. I think we all think of different things that we were going to go through in our lifetime, right?
Yep.
This is surely one that I'm sure those young people never even imagined would be something to deal with. And I think back, it's hard for me to go back all the way to my senior year. It's been a while ago. But in the things that you're going through, but at the same time, I was kind of surprised, or it's kind of interesting. I was on a meeting just the other day. Of course, it was a Zoom go-to meeting situation, and the comment was made that for the younger generation, a lot of this has not really probably affected them that much because they're so used to already being on their phones and electronically connected, and used to doing a lot of things like we are, FaceTiming and Snapchatting and all those kind of things. And so for them, it's really just life is normal in a little bit of a way. They're missing some social connection, day to day being in school. But for them a little bit, it's okay, you know. So I'm not used to that. I have to admit, I'm struggling a little bit just adjusting to this whole new idea of go-to meetings and Zoom meetings and all that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
So
so you said you got cows, donor facility, AI.
Yes.
So what's your cow herd like?
Yeah, so we run about 70 cows, and you'd probably call them a commercial herd. That the cow base is kind of a three-way cross that I've kind of been working on. I like genetics. It's been something I've been involved in for a long time, and just kind of playing around with pedigrees and different scenarios of what matings work. And so we used to raise a lot of high percentage Maine-Anjou cattle. And over the years, that breed has taken some different directions, and some things have happened. And so it was just something we kind of went away from. And when I went away from it, we got involved with some Simmental cattle. And so then I started looking at things, and obviously both of those breeds have used the Angus as far as making some percentage cattle. And so we started doing that. And in doing that, what I started working on was, could I develop a three-way cross that would be functional and work? And obviously, from my standpoint, we don't sell bulls. So my thing was, can I make a really good female out of that? And so what I found works really good is about a quarter Angus, quarter Simmental, and half Maine-Anjou. And what I've been looking at is, how do those cattle feed once they are weaned? Do I get good early growth? Can I get a good heavy weaning weight? A cow that is moderate in her frame size, and a calf raises a calf that matures really well and finishes out at a relatively economical rate, right? So it's really worked quite well for us. I've really been excited, and I really think I think I've got it figured out. It's been interesting.
Don't
you
say
really
that.
learn.
As soon as you say you figured it out, it's going to change.
Yeah, I know. I just jinxed myself, right? So, but I think it's been really interesting to just see, because we've surely learned what bulls don't work, right? So we've been able to kind of find bulls that work and bulls that don't work in those scenarios, and that's what's been interesting to me. And we keep trying, and we keep learning all the time, keep trying different things. I get some guys that ask me, are we raising club calves? It's not a club calf thing. I mean, do we want to sell some commercial show heifers? Yes, we'd like to sell some show heifers, and we do sell show heifers that can be registered, as a percentage Maine or a percentage Simmental. And those because I always, if I have to work with cows, I want to be able to look at them and enjoy what I'm looking at, right? So that's been kind of what we've been working on, and it's been really fun. And I think not only have I enjoyed it, but I think my kids have enjoyed it as well.
So you're trying to sell females and replacements, and then you're just steering the rest and sending them to feed yards?
Right. Yes. We'll take and steer the rest of them. Any of the bulls that are born. I mean, we do save a bull or two once in a while if I've planned a mating and it works out, but it's basically been for our in-herd use. We haven't really. I think that bull market's very challenging, and there's a lot of things that go along with selling bulls, in my opinion.
There is.
We're not in the capacity to really do that on a large scale. So we're going to just focus on those females and try to make the best of those that we can. And if people can see the value in them like we do, and want to participate in that, fantastic.
Awesome. So what about, how long you been doing the donor facility stuff?
Yeah, so we started the donor business back in 2003. So we've been doing it for a little over 15 years, and it's been really fun. It started out working with Dr. Josephson at the Tri-County Vet Clinic there in Taunton, Minnesota, and we still do work with them as far as the conventional flushing and the IVF goes. And so they had some clients that wanted to get cows flushed, but didn't want to do the day-to-day shot work, because it is a lot of work. It's time-consuming, and so we started taking care of those cows, and we've had as many as 30 donors around here at any one time, and just managing them in their donor life, and making sure they're taken care of, and we get the best production embryo quality that we can for our clients.
Yeah. So I suppose that's been a lot of interesting learning from different people and seeing different things.
Yeah, that's also been the fun part of my interest in cow reproduction, is because I get to work with clients and kind of get to understand their breeding programs and what they're trying to do and their mating strategies,
Yep.
and I guess I feel pretty fortunate. I must be doing a pretty decent job because once in a while I'll get asked for my opinion. Now I
Yeah.
realize it's just my opinion, but when you have clients that ask you for your ideas on mating on those cows, it's really kind of fun to I call it fun to kind of help try to make those decisions, because I think that's pretty interesting when we're trying to improve the beef industry and improve their program.
Yeah.
So if we can help out with that, that's what I'm excited about.
Okay, cool.
So
have you had any? Have you had any breeds come through there that you were never really a fan of, but it's changed your mind?
Yeah, I think one of them probably, and of course, I think it's probably changed my kids, and now they're rubbing off on me. But I'm not going to say I wasn't a fan of them, but we've had some Charolais cows come through here, and now my son Lane, who's 17, and my son Nate, who's 20, they both kind of have interest in these white ones. So I've always said, John, I've always had the attitude that I didn't really care what color the cow was. If it was a good cow, that's kind of been my thing. I never really, that's probably, I don't know. I'm passionate about cattle, period, not just a breed, So I didn't care if that cow was purple. If she was good, I wanted to be participating in that, right? So they've gotten into this Charolais thing a little bit, and so we've started playing around with some of those. Now, I'm not going to try to. I don't think I'm going to try to put them into the commercial herd or into our mainstream cow herd. I think they're going to have their little side project on the side, which is just fine, and that'll be good for them. So but that's been interesting, and I think I've learned over the years that there's a lot of good things about them Charolais cows and about the Charolais breed. So I've kind of grown a little interest in that as well. So they're rubbing off on me a little bit.
Yeah. So you staying with purebred stuff in the Charolais thing, or are you looking at crossing them?
Yeah, we've kind of stayed pretty much with the purebred side of things. Of course, as some of those cows have gotten older, and like for Lane and Nate, they're young, so they like this show cattle thing and this clubby thing. And so we surely have taken and crossed them once in a while, just to maybe if they were looking for a composite show heifer or something like that. So, but it's still in its infant stages, so it's something we're still playing around with.
Yeah. So obviously 2 of your boys are big into the beef stuff. Is the other 2 not so much, or what are they? What's the other boys?
Tanner, I don't think. Like I said before, he's an electrician up there in the cities. I think he likes that, and he likes his hunting and fishing, and I think that's awesome, and I think that's going to be his lifestyle and his life. I think actually my son Nate, as much as he has some cows and likes that part of it, he's a really sharp computer kid. I still call him a kid. He's my son. I can, but and I think he's going to be in that computer world. And maybe just have an interest in owning cows, and maybe not the day-to-day stuff all the time. But I think Lane surely seems to me to be the one that really has the interest in the cattle. And if I was going to pick one of my sons, that's probably going to be the one that's involved the most. It's going to be him. Chance is still 11. He still likes everything, right? So he
has no idea.
Yeah, he likes doing everything. So which is great. That's what you're supposed to do at that age.
Yep.
So
cool deal. So did you grow up in cattle?
Yeah. So ironically, we showed steers and 4-H, but I actually grew up in Minnesota on a farrow to finish swine operation, actually.
Okay.
So my folks still have a farm there around Medford, Minnesota, about an hour south of the Twin Cities.
Yep, I know where Medford's at.
So that's how I grew up, and then went to the University of Minnesota and got my animal science degree there, and I think my interest in the cattle probably was developed there, or came from there a little bit.
Yep.
And then as I just got graduated and moved out. My first job out of college was managing a 3,500 head feed yard. So that's kind of where it was solidified. My interest in the cattle was solidified there. So, but yeah, that's just been something that I've kind of grown into, I guess. So it was going to be hard. I can say it. Back in the day when I graduated from college, it was going to be hard for me to move into the swine industry with the way that scope was trending at that time. And so there just really wasn't going to be a place for me. But obviously in the cattle industry, there was an opportunity, right? Because cow herd size, depending on what you're doing and what role you want to play, you can own one cow or you can own 1,000 cows or 5,000 cows, you know, and it just depends on what you want to do and what your role is.
Yeah.
So
how does a Minnesota boy who went to the University of Minnesota end up in South Dakota?
Yeah. Well, I think I've always had an interest in the Western kind of lifestyle and the open spaces. And the other thing I always kind of jokingly say is it's the furthest west I could get my wife to move because she's actually from White Bear Lake, Minnesota. They're up in the Twin Cities. So yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not a big fan of winters, so I probably would have liked to have moved a little further south or gone a little further west. But at the time, this was what was going to work, and we were fortunate to find a little place that we felt could fit our operation. And I always thought it was, you know, when we moved here, I thought it would be neat to live we live kind of on the very beginning of the Buffalo Ridge system. So, and I thought that would be a neat place to live. After being here for 15 plus years, I'm maybe not so sure. We get some pretty wicked wind and we get some winter and, you know, and so I'm not sure it was the right spot to stop for me. But we're adapting and it's home now and we're adapting and managing. So it's a good place to raise the family.
Well, that's good. So I can see there on your shirt that you got a little patch there. You said that you worked for Multimin. So tell me how long you've been doing that, and you can tell me a little bit about the product.
Yeah, so I've been working for Multimin now 4 years, and it's been an interesting journey. It really has. It kind of started out. We had been using the product in the donor part of our operation, and so I kind of was introduced to it that way. And about 4 years ago, my wife had went to grad school, and so we needed to help cash flow situation at home. We needed to change some things, and I needed to find a job. So fortunately for me, I was able to. Multimin was looking for a sales rep at that time, and so I was able to interview and get the position to cover North, South Dakota, and Minnesota for Multimin USA. And so we market the Multimin 90 product, and what it is it's an injectable trace mineral for cattle, containing zinc, selenium, manganese, and copper. And one thing I'd share that I really didn't realize before, part of my post-secondary career out of college, I also worked for Vigortone Ag Products and sold mineral that way. So ironically, not only was reproduction a big interest of mine, but apparently trace mineral and mineral supplementation was going to end up being a big part of my career as well. So it's been kind of interesting. But what they've just found is that by these 4 trace minerals are kind of the critical ones for immunity and reproduction in these cattle. And so what they found was that by injecting them at specific times, they can help the cattle respond better to these high challenge situations and kind of perform better in these challenging times of the production cycle. So just to give you an idea, if I can take a minute and just like a cow, a beef cow might get 2 doses of Multimin a year, one pre-calving and one pre-breeding. And the reason is because we found that those are the critical times when those cows need these specific trace minerals. And they're also, if you think about it, pre-calving and pre-breeding, they're at their lowest kind of consumption of feed period,
Yeah.
and they're at the highest demand time for these. So how can we help that cow get them? And ironically, by injecting it as well, we know that cow got it.
Yep.
We know that there's no question. We didn't have to wonder whether it went to a mineral feeder or not. The other thing I'd like to mention, because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about this is not a replacement for your mineral program.
Yep.
Okay? So it works good in conjunction with a good mineral program.
Gotcha.
So that's the other thing I'd like to, that's one of those other misnomers I'd like to make sure everybody understands.
Yeah.
So
how did you get started using it yourself before you became a rep? Like it's kind of a new product relatively. So how did you
in fact,
how did you stumble into it?
Yeah, so ironically, and we're celebrating 10 years of this formulation in the United States. So 10 years in the animal health industry is still pretty new,
Yeah.
you know. And how did I stumble into it or onto it? Kind of interesting story I'll just try to share quickly.
Yeah, go for it.
Doc Josephson handed me a bottle one day and said, hey, this stuff is supposed to help these donors in their embryo production. And so I'm like, I looked at this bottle and I'm like, I'm supposed to start giving this shot? And he's like, yeah, let's try it. And so we started injecting the donors. And my expectations were that we were going to get more embryos. I thought I was going to take a cow that was giving maybe 8 or 10 embryos, and we were going to get 15 or 20. Yep. And so we did that for about 3 months. We didn't really see that change, and so I started questioning what we were doing. And so we actually discontinued using the product because I just was like, this stuff isn't working. We're on a good mineral program.
Yep.
And I found a testimonial of a friend of mine down south that was using the product. And I said, if he's using this, there must be something. I'm missing something or that. Yep. So I called him and I said, hey, you did a testimonial for this company. I don't understand why you did that. This stuff isn't working for us. And he's like, well, what are you looking at? And what are your expectations?
Yep.
And so I told him what we were seeing. And he said, Al, you're looking at the wrong thing.
Yep.
And I'm like, so he told me to look at degenerates and quality of the embryos. I went back through our records, and sure enough, we were getting fewer degenerates and we were getting better quality embryos. And so I said, oh, this stuff does work. And so we started using it on the donors again.
Yep.
And then when I got hired with the company, I went for my training. And I tell you, John, the eye-opener for me was when Lawrence, our CEO, started talking about the immunity in these young calves and what those calves go through as far as maternal transfer, their trace mineral status when they're born, and what that first basically 150 to 200 days of life is like.
Yep.
And it really just kind of hit me with some of the things we were dealing with on our commercial cow herd at home on the calf side from a health standpoint. And it just started making some sense to me. And I said, it was kind of funny because that first week when I was in Fort Collins, Colorado at my training, after the immunity discussion, I went back to my hotel room and I called home and I said to my wife, I said, hey, when you go to tag the next calf, start giving them 1 cc of Multimin. I said, we got to try this because I think this is what we're missing. And I think this is what's going wrong. And we were on a good mineral program. We have mineral out there for them cows every day. And so we started utilizing it at tagging time. And it made a huge difference for us in the amount of antibiotics that we use and the amount of cattle that we were treating.
Yeah.
We've virtually eliminated our scour issue and our calf pneumonia issue that we deal with at this place. And for me, that was a big savings. We were spending a lot of money treating calves, and it was turning into a lot of work. I was getting really close to giving up, so I've actually seen it work. So that's what helps me talk about it in that and be kind of passionate about it is because I have seen the results. And I think as I travel the country, I think more and more people are seeing that and seeing that response. And I think that's what's driving the continual interest in the Multimin and obviously the continued growth of the product as well.
Yeah. So what? I guess kind of a question I have is do you have like kind of there's a lot of people that are kind of moving towards more like a grass-fed situation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
No antibiotics, no
Yeah.
vaccinations. So like, are people
Right.
using Multimin in that system at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Multimin is one of those products that is, for these grass-fed or organic products. It's one of those products that I think you really want to have as one of your go-to products because we're just helping with the health of that animal, and helping their immune system respond to any challenges without antibiotics.
Yep.
So I really think that should be an integral part of those programs. And I know that when we look at those natural programs or those kind of things, that this is a product that's on their list, and that should be at your ready, and you should utilize it at the timely times, because it's going to help reduce that antibiotic use.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
are you seeing a lot of like dairies and feedlots using it too, and just trying to?
yeah, I think on the dairy side of things, there's continual growth there, particularly in the calf section. Those dairy calves, there again, they can really benefit. We've got some really good data. The other fun part about Multimin is that we're doing about 4 to 5 uh, university studies every year, just trying to make continually prove this product and what it can do for these calves and for the cows. And so there's over 35 printed research and peer-reviewed papers on Multimin, and so those dairy calves can really benefit from a dose of Multimin, just helping reduce scours and pneumonias.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the feedlot side, I think the interest has really been in just improving the vaccine response. So there's some really good data out there right now that's been done over about the last 3 to 4 years, and it's relatively new, so not a lot of people have seen it yet.
Yep.
And we're trying to get it out there as best we can. And that is that by using a dose of Multimin at the same time as we're vaccinating those cattle, we can improve the response to the vaccine by 25%.
Yeah.
And it's not the vaccine that isn't good. We've got all the vaccines on the market nowadays are good.
Yeah.
It's the cattle being able to respond. So we're helping the cattle. We're giving the cattle the tools that they need to have the proper response to the vaccine and to what we're doing with them.
Yep.
And so I see it a lot in the backgrounding yards, and they're utilizing the Multimin, maybe on arrival, or they're utilizing it in their hospital pen to help with the treated cattle. I've seen it in I've got yearling yards that use it in the treatment pens and the hospital pens, just to help them cattle respond to the disease challenge that they're having.
Yep.
So
we're kind of wrapping up here. Just a couple more quick questions, but kind of
sure.
for people that don't know anything about Multimin, what's the recommended doses? Kind of what's your Multimin protocol for cows, bulls, and calves? Kind of
Yeah.
how do they break out through the year?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and let me state that Multimin is a prescription product, so you need to work with your veterinarian and get a prescription on it,
Yep.
and that's due to the selenium that's in the product. But
Okay.
so on a cow, the recommended dose is 1 per 200 pounds, but honestly, I don't dose a cow with any more than 7 cc's. And I have a lot of clients that are giving 5 or 6 cc's at each time and still getting the good response, because here, we do a pretty good job nutritionally, right? And so
Yep.
we're just trying to hit those critical times when those cows or calves need a little help. So that cow, you're maybe going to spend anywhere between $5 and $7 on that cow for the year
Yep.
for her 2 Multimin shots. And on the calf side, that's kind of a 3-shot protocol. And you can kind of see which one fits your operation the best. But it's 1 cc per 100 pounds. And so we have our shot at birth, at branding or turnout time, and then again at preconditioning time. Okay? And so we might use, if we do the whole program, we might use 8 cc's on that calf through that first 150 to 200 days of its life.
Yep.
And we can look at spending maybe $3 to $4 on that calf. So realistically, when we look at the cost of antibiotics
Yeah.
or treatment, it really is not very expensive, can be very cost effective in saving us some money.
Yeah.
I usually see, honestly, when I work with somebody on the Multimin program, I hear a lot of about a $5 to $6 return for every dollar they spend on Multimin. They're getting 5 or 6 back.
Okay.
In savings.
Yep. So what about bulls?
So,
How you handling
so
bulls?
bulls, yeah. So bulls, same thing. 1 per 200 pounds on those mature bulls or growing bulls, and so there again, 5 or 6 cc's works very well. Nice to get it in them, maybe 45 to 60 days pre-breeding.
Yep.
But we don't always, not a lot of people want to handle their bulls at that time.
Yeah.
And so even to give them a dose at BSC time is going to help ensure that bull has some good semen quality going out for the next 60 days, 45 to 60 days of the breeding season.
Yep.
And there again, we're investing maybe $3.50 or $4 per bull.
Yep.
I know I've got a lot of purebred clients that are using this product on their yearling bulls to help improve the semen quality at BSE time. And some anecdotal things that I hear is that they see reduced foot rot, and that there's just some overall better health of that bull through that breeding season, because we'd surely rather have him out breeding cows than standing at the mineral feeder.
Yeah, for sure.
So the other thing I'd like to mention, John, is that it's a sub-Q injection,
Yep.
And the product flows really good. So I honestly like to use about a 5/8 inch 18 gauge needle. I know that sounds small, but what I've learned and found over the years is that when we use that needle, those cattle hardly even notice that they're getting an injection. So I get you bend a lot of needles kind of comment. And
Yep.
Ironically, when you're doing it and using it in that way, you really don't bend that many needles because, like I said, the cattle hardly even notice. We use that needle even on our mature herd bulls,
Yeah.
and they don't hardly notice they're getting a dose.
So you're putting it in the neck?
So yeah, we want to keep it up in the neck according to BQA, and follow those guidelines up in that triangle. We'd like to be on the side of the neck by ourselves, but if you have to give 2 shots of products on the same side, we just want to put Multimin on the bottom.
Yep.
So we don't want it to mix with anything. I know I get the comment about lumps once in a while. I get some questions about that. I think what happens there a lot is maybe we get it in the epidural layers of the skin, and that product then can't get absorbed. I can honestly say we've given a lot of shots, and like I said, over 35 research papers done at universities. We've given all those cattle shots, and we don't have lumps. And so I think it's just how we're placing that shot. We just want to make sure it's sub-Q.
Yep.
That product is absorbed and is very easily flowable, so that we don't want it to mix with anything else when we give. So good shot placement. And I always say Multimin is blue, so put it on the bottom of the triangle that you have on your cattle for the BQA.
Yep. Well, Al, that's been 30 minutes already. So
yeah, wow. I'm sorry. I do like to visit. I'm passionate about Multimin.
No, you are.
I have
That's
to
great.
admit, and I'm passionate about the cattle industry.
No, that's what I want to hear. So it was great talking to you. I think that's a good place to wrap up. A lot of good information there, and people get to know who you are a little bit more. And we'll look forward to doing the podcast with you. We'll get a lot more in depth and have a good time hanging out and seeing your operation. And
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. I'm going to put a plug in too. Visit the Multimin Facebook page or the Multimin website, multiminusa.com.
Yep.
Find your local rep and work with them, and there's a lot of new information. Obviously, with this social media era that we're in right now, we're really utilizing that. Might be a good place if you got other questions as a resource.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Al. I really appreciate you coming on here and talking with me.
Thank you, John. I appreciate the time and the opportunity. You have a great day.
You too. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye.
Thanks, John.
Let's see here. So there you have it, folks. That was Al Schoenfeld with Multimin, and he runs his own cattle and does his own donor facility. So if you guys like the video, I'd really appreciate it if you could like the video on YouTube, or subscribe to the page, and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And I'll keep doing these videos as long as you want, and I got some more ideas. And if you got your own ideas, or if you want to do this with me, be on the podcast, be on the YouTube channel, just leave it in the comments below, and we'll go from there. Thanks, guys. Bye.